I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service for October 6, 2020. I'm your current president, Ashley Sullivan. Thank you for being here. Michael, would you please show our flag graphic for 15 seconds of respectful silence? Please remain on mute and take this time to personally reflect. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Phil Eskew, who will be offering our reflection.
Well, the Rotary Toast is coming up on November the 6th. It's at 7 o'clock at night. We're benefiting the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. It's a combined effort of all three Rotary clubs. And we're honoring Bob Hamill. Now, Bob Hamill's lived in this community for over 40 years. And today is his birthday. He's actually 84 years old today on November the 6th. As I've told you before, I've known Bob since 1959 because my father was superintendent of schools in Huntington, where Bob was the sports writer for the Huntington Herald Press. I am encouraging all Rotarians to at least spend $25 for view only. Currently, we only have 41 out of 108 members that have signed up for this event. This is something that Rotary sponsors. It's a Rotary event, and this is really not a very good showing of our club. So I really encourage you to get involved at Rotary Toast and sign up for this to view only or to buy a higher priced ticket so that you can get a board as well. So please get involved and tell your friends. If they're not Rotarians, please encourage your neighbors and other people, because this will be a great event and there'll be several speakers that you will enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil. I hope to see all of you there. It's going to be fabulous. Now I'd like to introduce some guests we have with us today. Jennifer Ashcraft is with us. Welcome. Suzanne Owen and Carolyn Fry has joined us. Are there any other guests that I have not seen?
I see Ann and Bob Wren.
Very special guests. Welcome, Ann and Bob.
I have a guest joining us from Tennessee. Bob Orr is here. He's a visitor at the meeting.
Anyone else? Okay. Carolyn Fry is coming back to us. Welcome all. Thank you so much for being here. And please come back if you want to learn more about Rotary. You can ask any of us and we'd be happy to tell you. Thanks to our producers, Michael Shermis, Sally Gaskell, and Natalie Blaze. Our roundabout reporter for this week is Connie Chikalis. We have a lot of birthdays and membership anniversaries to celebrate today. Becky Jessmer, October 1st. Colleen Curry, October 5th. Tim Jessen, October 8th. Hal Turner, October 10th. Marin McClelland, October 10th. Gil Souza, October 11th. And Art Omick, October 11th. Happy birthday. Membership anniversaries: Heather Bozarth, 1 year. Von Welch, 1 year. Art Omick, 6 years. Jay Nelson, 1 year. Rex Hillary, 9 years. Past President Sarah Laughlin, 12 years. And Tim Jessen, 8 years. Congratulations. Thank you for being a part of the Rotary family. And now we have a special presentation to honor our newest Paul Harris Fellow. Mike Baker, would you please do the honors?
Yes, I will. Hope everybody can hear me. As most of you know, because you've heard me say this a lot in the last couple of years, the Paul Harris Fellow recognition is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for someone, either a Rotarian or a non-Rotarian, that has made a substantial contribution towards the Rotary Foundation. Today, I'm happy to present the Paul Harris Fellow designation and pin by Zoom to a current member of our club. Although a relatively new Rotarian, she has been actively involved in our club and projects and has strongly supported Rotary International. Connie Shakalis, please step to the Zoom screen if you can.
I'm here.
I
I'm
see you.
here.
That's great. Connie, you will be joining other Paul Harris Fellows in our club and around the world. Your support will do good in the world, providing health services to impoverished children, mothers, bringing clean water to many in need, and all the other educational things that Rotary International does throughout the world. We know you've been a star in your profession, but now we recognize you as the newest Paul Harris Fellow stars. Connie, please accept our congratulations and sincere thanks for your commitment to the goals of Rotary and Rotary International. And with the entire club, please join me in recognizing Connie Shakalis as our new Paul Harris Fellow.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can't see how big the smile is on her face.
Congratulations, Connie. Thank you so much for being invested in this club and in what the Rotary does across the world. We are so grateful for you.
Thank you.
Maybe Gus has to take your picture for the for the newsletter.
Okay.
I have a few announcements here. Owen Johnson gave a paper at the annual meeting of the American Journalism Historians Association last weekend, held on Zoom. His paper looked at Ernie Pyle's relationship to and writing about Black people. Thank you, Owen, for your continued journalism excellence and giving us all of your insights on Ernie Pyle. I joked with Owen over email that we're going to have to start doing an Owen in the news segment every week because he's so active. Thank you so much. It's Reconnect Week. This is a great time to reach out to past Rotary program participants and invite them to renew their connection to Rotary. If you know any Rotary Youth Exchange members, interactors, Rotaractors, Rotary Peace Center graduates, Rotary scholars, reach out to say hello, welcome them back, extend an invitation to join us on Zoom. It's time to gather them back in and see where they are. On that note, an esteemed Rotary scholar, Aubrey Cedar, received high praise from Connie Shakalis. Connie took in The Woman in the Woods, a new walkabout radio play offered by Cardinal Stage last weekend, saying that Saturday afternoon lent itself to the wondrous speaking voice of Aubrey Cedar as Ellie in Josie Gingrich's original play. As soon as I heard Cedar speak, early in scene 1 as I strolled the campus, I remembered how well suited she is for the stage and apparently radio. She stole the show. Congratulations to Aubrey for her performance and to Cardinal Stage for another success. Now, Volunteering Service Spotlight. We'll be offering at least one volunteer opportunity every month. So far, we have 4 right now. The latest one is our Adopt a Road date on Saturday, October 24th. We manage a piece of road from Pete Ellis Drive, East 3rd Street to East State Road 45. And we're having a cleanup day on World Polio Day, October 24th from 9 to 11. We already have 8 Rotarians signed up, so thank you. It'll be included in the roundabout so that you can join in on the fun. Helping Hands, Wheeler Mission, and Teachers Warehouse also have opportunities available. They'll all be listed in the roundabout how you can reach out to them and find some volunteering to get plugged into. Now for some happy dollars. I want to hear from you. What are we happy about? Go ahead. Mike Baker, do you have one?
Yes, I'm happy. Today is my 41st wedding anniversary. So I'm going to, might as well step up and do $41 to Teachers Warehouse. And I want to put another $2 there because I wanted to, it's so good to see my good friend Bob and Ann Wren. And Ann, I think, will be rejoining our club soon. And hopefully we're going to be bringing Bob along with her.
Yay. There is a link in the chat that you can give your happy dollars through PayPal. So check that out. Those go to Teachers Warehouse. Anyone else?
I'll give 20. Oh, sorry about that. This is Shelley Yoder, and I want to give $20 to celebrate the first day of early voting. make sure you vote early, wear your mask, and be safe. But I want to do it in honor of my friend Andy Ruff, who's working hard at his job. And I've been there and I know how hard it is. So we've got you, Andy. So glad you're here today.
I've got happy dollars for Ann and Bob Wren. I just talked to Bob last night. I'm so excited.
What about? I want to hear that.
Anyone else? Any last takers? Okay. Thank you for your updates. It's always so great to hear what you're doing. Do we have somebody else? Okay. Now I would like to introduce Lynn Schwartzberg, who will be telling us more about our speaker for today.
Ashley, good to see you all. I'm very, very thrilled to introduce Andy Ruff to you all. If you don't already know him, I'll give you some brief background information. Andy is a native Bloomingtonian outside of some time in college and teaching in Indianapolis. He's spent his whole life in Bloomington, has 2 kids, Anna and Hank, as well as his mom and dad still in Bloomington, who I've known for a long time. He's married to another Hoosier from Hendricks County, Sue Bowman, and has a stepson who is a crew chief for the A-10 with the Air Force in Fort Wayne. Andy graduated from Cornell with an undergrad degree, a secondary education teaching license at the School of Ed here at IU, a master's in public affairs from SPIA, has been a high school teacher, worked for Monroe County government, taught at Oakland City College in Bedford, has been an academic advisor at IU, was on the city council for many, many years, 20, was a staff member for Congressman Barron Hill, and on the interesting side, plays amazing music and plays, writes, and sings country music. As you know, Andy is running for District 9 in Congress as our representative, and I would love for you to give a warm Rotary welcome to Andy Ruff.
Yay.
That means that I don't have to say too much when I talk about who I am and what I've done, because you covered a lot of it right there. Well, again, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the good work that Rotary does. It's you know, about 21 years ago, one of my earliest campaign memories of being a candidate myself was speaking to the Rotary in would have been 1999, and I'm not sure. I know there's more than one Rotary club. I don't remember which whether it was the breakfast group or the lunch group. I forget who I spoke to 21 years ago, but some of you were maybe there. I remember it well. I remember it pretty well. It was an exciting time as a first-time candidate. I was picked by the HT, by Bob Zaltzberg and crew, to actually lose that race, to not win. And I actually finished second out of a field of 7, I think, at-large members, right behind Tony Pizzo, right behind Dr. Pizzo. Some of you, like I say, may have been at that meeting. Some of you have known me a lot longer than that. And so I talked to Suzanne Owen when we were first coming on to this meeting, that she was actually at my parents' wedding way back, whenever that would have been. So, you know, some of you have known me a really long time. Some I haven't known as long, but I'm very grateful and feel very fortunate to know now. One of those people being Shelley Yoder, who spoke a minute ago. Someone who I haven't known even though I've been in Bloomington I've been in Bloomington my whole life. I've known her ever since, pretty much since she's been here. And I just have I've got to do a shout out to Shelley, because doing what I'm doing now, running for Congress in the 9th District, I can't believe she did this twice. I have nothing but respect and admiration for Shelley Yoder. It's what she did running twice to try to represent us in this district was just nothing short of heroic. And I know of what I speak now. Most of what I'd like to do, most campaign speaking in this one, at least in this pandemic event, has been really brief interviews on really few candidate statements made on radio snips, and what I'd like to do here is I don't know, have more of a conversation, more of a relaxed conversation where folks can just engage with me because I want to listen. I'm trying to become the representative for the whole 9th district, and I want to hear more about what people have to say because there's been limited opportunity for me to get out and interact with folks in this campaign because 95% of events have been canceled. I was planning to go out and go to every day of the summer. I was going to be at a different county fair, and setting up and in the vendor area at a table, maybe with the Democrats, maybe at the party table, with just a guitar and my literature and just talking to people and engaging with people, going to all the festivals, the Dogwood Festival, Persimmon Festival, all the events, but things are just not really happening. I've been to everything I can possibly go to, but there's not a lot. So I'd like to just, kind of interact with people after I hit a few basics, say a few additional things about myself, and then a few general things about how I sort of see our situation right now. Lynn mentioned, who I am. I've been in Bloomington my whole life. Been in what's now the 9th district my whole life, though it's been the 8th district.
And the 7th.
It's been changed around a lot. I've been educated in different places, but have come back to Bloomington, worked here, raised my family here. And become really committed and dedicated to my community. How my people ask sometimes how I'm qualified. Well, most of I served on city council for 20 years as a representative. I also worked in the 9th district, Indiana office, the Monroe County office of Congressman Barron Hill when Barron had his last term as our 9th district representative about 10 years ago. I've done other things that I think qualify me. I worked for Monroe County government for over a decade. I've been in our school systems. I'm experienced in our Indiana public schools. I taught high school for a spell in a public high school in Indiana, actually up at North Central in Indianapolis. And I taught older adults coming back, looking to reinvent themselves. When I taught at the Oakland City College Bedford branch, I feel like I have a very good understanding of the communities, the people, and the land of the 9th district, and I'm very connected in ways that I think our current representative never will be, certainly isn't now, and I don't think ever will be. What do I stand for, or what are my biggest priorities? Basically, the first one is what I think the most important, sort of fundamental, basic job of a congressional representative is, of a House member is to his district, and that's to be their voice, be a connection, be a conduit for all of their concerns, their priorities, and problems, and be connected in every possible way every day, and be available to them. And again, I think that's something I can do and would do to a much greater extent than our current representative. So that would be my number one priority: is be present, be connected, be listening, be representing. And The other things, you know, I have a big list of platform priorities, which anyone can see by going to my website, andyruff.org. But, you know, I think most fundamentally, the number one issue I think is that we need to address in this country is the money, the big money that's corrupting our politics. And, you know, whether it's money from the extremely well-connected and extraordinarily wealthy elite, whereas corporate money, the influence of lobbyists, Wall Street money, you know, I just don't think we can make progress on healthcare. We can't fix our healthcare mess. We can't address our climate emergency. We can't strengthen our public education systems. We can't deal with our college debt crisis. We can't really address a fair economy and broader prosperity until we reduce the influence of big money interests and their power, they have over both our elections and our policy making once people are representatives are in office. Because they will stand in the way every time, because so often the interests of big money and Wall Street and corporations and the ultra wealthy, so often they conflict with the interests of ordinary people, of ordinary Hoosiers. So they interfere at every single opportunity through their access and influence to representatives in government. And through the revolving door policy they have between government positions and in corporate industry, they'll interfere with efforts, critical efforts to change and improve these things for ordinary people. So to me, that's fundamentally the most important issue that we need to address, because we just won't be able to address the list of to make real progress, real progressive changes in any of these other areas that we need to address until we address that problem. So one other thing I'd like to say something about, because I hear it sometimes out on the campaign trail. I hear it more around here than anywhere else, and I guess that makes sense because most in other places in the district, people wouldn't necessarily know. And that's my loss in the 2019 primary in the city council race. Because, you know, some people will say or post stuff like, "Oh, he lost, and now he's just running for lose council primary and run for Congress." So I haven't had that many opportunities to talk about it, and I do want to say a few words about it. You know, that primary in 2019 was what it was. You know, it's Bloomington, so there are always good, hardworking candidates to step up and run passionate and strong campaigns and have really good platforms. And certainly we had that in 2019, you know, and I got out hustled, that's for sure. I got out hustled. You know, there were a lot of, I think there's also a lot of fairly recently engaged voters who didn't really know me and certainly didn't know my legislative record and my activism. You know, that's partly my fault for not being able to make people more aware of that. But for example, I actually had people posting and saying and writing that I was just a simple middle of the road, do nothing establishment kind of typical politician, which I think most people with any historical knowledge of Bloomington politics over the last couple of decades know that that's frankly ridiculous. But you know, that was what it was. When I get asked about it though, what I really like to just simply say, so I like to say that I like to point to Richard Lugar and Richard Murdoch in 2012 in the Republican primary in Indiana, when Senator Lugar was beaten out in a primary by Murdoch. And I like to say, well, I'm in pretty good company. I'm in pretty good company. There's nothing to be ashamed of. when you think about that kind of thing. And so it happens, you know. And like I say, Bloomington, we have good candidates. I got out hustled, but it provided an opportunity for me to take my lifetime of experience and as a Hoosier in this part of Indiana, and my experience from representing on council for 20 years, and step up and run for this congressional seat, because I certainly think I can do a better job representing than our incumbent right now. You know, we have some real fundamental issues in this country. You know, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a Hoosier. But we have to take an honest look at where we are right now. We've got some real serious fundamental issues that we've got to come together and address, and do it soon, because, you know, I believe we're on a path that path leads to the unraveling of our republic. And it's already significantly diminished our role and standing in the international arena. And the path we're on shows no indications of significantly veering off that unless we come together and make those changes. You know, socially, we're being divided and distracted, and we're fighting amongst ourselves. Even though we have far more common interests as Hoosiers and Americans than we do differences. And I think a lot of the divisiveness is foisted, it's cultivated, it's actively cultivated by certain media interests, by corporate media interests, by certain elected officials, and a lot of other powerful status quo forces that want us to remain divided. They don't want us to be able to come together in a critical mass to make the fundamental changes we need in the economic and political power structure in this country. So they deliberately stoke the divisions, and it's been very effective, as we can see, but we absolutely have to address this divisiveness. And I see it as a top priority, essential. Whereas I think our current incumbent, he doesn't really, I don't believe, sees it as quite such a problem. The system's working pretty well, I think, from his perspective. So that's socially, we have that problem. Economically, we got a system that's more and more all the time rigged to funnel more and more of the prosperity of our economy up to the already existing wealthy and powerful. It's just dysfunctional beyond belief. And all you have to do is think about the fact that in this pandemic, with all of the economic turmoil that we have here and all the needs, the breakdown of our economy for ordinary folks, and the unemployment and the job loss and the impact on access to healthcare, all these things we see, the economic impacts of this pandemic, you have the richest folks in America getting significantly richer all the time during this pandemic. So at the same exact time that we're going through as an economic time that we haven't seen in generations, you have the wealthiest getting their wealth dramatically increasing, not just marginally, but dramatically increasing. We just have to ask ourselves, how can that even happen? How does that even happen? How is that even possible? Clearly, we need to dramatically overhaul the way our economy works and distributes the prosperity that basically that comes from the work of regular folks and working people. Finally, environmentally, we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough on climate change. I think any honest assessment of the reality on the ground clearly illustrates that. And if we want to hand our children and grandchildren a habitable future that's not rife with dramatic turmoil, is socially and economically and politically, we need to do so much more than we are in addressing climate change. And again, I don't think our current incumbent is as concerned about the divisiveness, the social issues we have bringing this country together. I don't think economically he has a big problem with the way the system's working, serving him pretty well, and his supporters. And environmentally, I don't see indication that he's seriously taking this as seriously as it absolutely has to be taken. And I think you can throw COVID, the pandemic, into that too. And I don't think that our current incumbent has taken the pandemic anywhere near as seriously as it should have been taken. And I don't think we'd be in nearly as bad a situation we're in now if the rest of the leadership, if our current rep and the rest of the leadership in Washington had taken it more seriously from the beginning. With that, I would like to just say, we have local needs too, real quick. We have local needs too, of course. We have large areas of our district, the 9th district, that aren't well served by broadband. And that has implications for opportunities and a level playing field of opportunity for our students in our schools in these areas, for businesses to be competitive in these areas. So, we have a lot of issues specific to the 9th district that need more attention. And I would pledge to give my full attention to our local 9th district issues and needs, not just sort of the larger problems and issues that I've been talking about so far. The broadband is just one of those issues, but we have infrastructure issues, we have public school issues, we have all kinds of issues within the 9th district that need to be addressed. So with that though, I'd like to just open it up for some discussion, some conversation.
Andy?
Charlotte.
Yes, Charlotte. You can hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can. I wish I was there with you in the sunny Palm
I
Beach.
wish you were too. It's nice down here. Meanwhile, I pay attention to what's going on, and I do try to find out what people are saying and doing. And I have yet to have any sense that we have any way of reaching our current member in Congress with any ideas that we have. I don't get it. I never hear from him at all. And if I send a message, which I do occasionally, I never get a response. So I feel totally unrepresented in Washington.
I find that as I've been out in the district as much as I can, talking face to face with people. And I think there's a growing awareness or growing sense that our current representative he's just not there.
He's not there.
And he doesn't seem to feel like he needs to be. He feels like he can just wear the Republican label and have that by his name, and that's all that he needs to do, and then he can win and then go on representing Wall Street interests and financial interests and not representing ordinary communities and ordinary people in the 9th district. One good example, I think, that illustrates his lack of connection, this is real, this is because people say, well, you're just saying, anyone can say something like that, but here's a piece of evidence. So in the package, the federal relief packages that have been passed by Congress to supply, to help people through this pandemic, the small business loan opportunities that were included and funds that were included, the 9th district in Indiana got 35% of our small businesses in the 9th district got small business loans as part of the pandemic relief packages. That is less than half of what the other districts all around Indiana, all the other districts got. The district to our west, which is the 9th, got, I believe, 68%. The district to our east, that includes Columbus and Bartholomew County, 74% of those small businesses got small business loans through the pandemic relief loan programs. And same with the rest of the districts in Indiana. Our district got less than half of what other districts got. And I think it illustrates that, you know, he's just not connected. He's not there. His people aren't there. He's not sending, you know, crews of staff out into the communities to find out what's needed to work with the small businesses. Because he doesn't care. He doesn't feel like he has to. He feels like he can just win by putting that R by his name. And, you know, we're going to continue to get more of the same if we don't change and get some actual representation by someone who's connected and who cares about the 9th District.
Lee Hamilton, remember, was in this district, and he actually sent out people to find out in Barron Hill. We've had other representatives come by occasionally. This guy never comes by.
But you know, people see. I've heard him say, "Well, it's not my personal job to get out and all these just go to every community." And I'd say I disagree with that. That's his job. That's exactly what his job is, to be connected to our communities. You know, about 2 weeks ago, you know, there haven't really been any candidate debates or forums held because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But last couple weeks ago, the Brown County League of Women Voters had a candidate forum on a Tuesday night for 1 hour, just like 2 weeks ago. And it was a Zoom in though, right? It wasn't in person. So you could literally, where any place in the world, you could just Zoom in and participate in that forum. Charlotte, you okay? Okay. You could Zoom in from anywhere and participate in that for 1 hour on a weeknight. And the Libertarian candidate participated, I participated, and our current Representative Hollingsworth did not show up, couldn't be bothered to show up for 1 hour by Zoom from wherever in the world you could be on a weeknight. For what's probably going to be the only candidate forum of the entire general election due to the pandemic. You know, it infuriates me and it frustrates me because there are so few opportunities. I think this pandemic situation has disadvantaged me as a challenger far more than the incumbent, right? So it's already got the advantage of incumbency, and now there are no opportunities to have debates, to have candidate forums. And then the one that the Brown County League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan organization, attempts to put on to help give voters an opportunity to see their candidates, and he just doesn't feel like he even needs to show up. So I think it's typical.
Andy, what do you mentioned the lack of access to Wi-Fi. What do you consider the 3 main problems faced by the 9th District specifically?
Well, specifically, it's probably, I would say, well, they're statewide, really. They're more Indiana state problems, separating out the 9th District, except in areas where I think we're not getting as good representation, like the small business loans is one thing. But, you know, there are significant areas of agriculture in the 9th District. We do have farmers, and they are really unable to plan for and their future, investments for their farms and their plan for their crop, because of the turmoil that the current administration has put the commodities markets in. Plus, climate change is already starting to influence farmers and farm activities. So we really need to look at food production of farmers. That's one thing. The broadband in a lot of these areas is definitely another example. And a third one is, and this is really statewide, is our public education system, our public schools, and considering them part of our infrastructure, and needing to devise a way to more strongly support our school system. And the federal government definitely has a role in that. Another thing is veterans. You know, we have a higher percentage of veterans per capita in the 9th district than an average district in the country. The 9th district has a higher per capita number of veterans, and we really, we need to emphasize getting veterans the services they need and deserve and were promised. A much better job than we're doing. And it's also an economic development tool, really, for of course, the highest priority is that that we've promised this, and they served our country. They were promised easy access to their benefits and what they deserve, and we need to make that a reality. But it's also an economic benefit to the district because it represents resources coming in to the 9th district to serve our veterans that are recycled and magnified in our local economies as those veterans use those resources and spend those monies and access those services. So that's another thing that I would emphasize that we need to address here in the 9th.
Where do you put healthcare?
Well, healthcare, to me, we absolutely have to move to Medicare for all. I'm absolutely a firm believer in Medicare for all and supportive that's the way we have to go. Leaving the insurance industry involved and sort of just tinkering around the edges. I mean, the ACA did some good, important things, right? But we cannot let ourselves get distracted by thinking we can just tweak the ACA in various ways to provide, to get us to where all Americans have access to healthcare. And we need to get a single payer universal system in place. Will serve everybody, and I believe it'll be far cheaper. It's not government-run healthcare. It's government-administered payments for the coverage. It's just like insurance. It's a giant pool, but the pool is the entire country with everybody paying into it, as opposed to the pool model of a private insurance company, where the goal is simply to get as many premiums in and pay as few payments out, a small amount of coverage out as possible, is the whole model. No wonder it doesn't serve us well in terms of delivering healthcare when it's designed to deliver profits. We have to do that. And I think what's specific to the 9th district, we need to recognize that we want our small communities to be viable in all of the ways that they need, where they can provide what they need to their own area residents, right? We don't want to just continue to consolidate, in my view, we don't want to continue to consolidate healthcare services in fewer and fewer locations with more and more, leaving, in the meantime, having small hospitals that serve areas and other healthcare options that serve our smaller local communities have to close up. And Medicare for all is one of the ways that would strengthen the ability for those rural healthcare facilities, like small hospitals in our smaller communities, to be able to survive, because they have a higher percentage of patients that can't pay fully, and so they find themselves not at a strong disadvantage and oftentimes having to close down. Whereas if we had a single payer, universal Medicare for all system, every service provided in any hospital, regardless of whether it was rural, smaller serving hospital or a city urban hospital, would be reimbursed and be paid for those services, and enable those smaller facilities to stay open and serve their local communities, which we need. We can't just continually to have people have to go farther and farther from where they live to both work in the healthcare industry, but also to get the healthcare they need.
Hey, Andy. I recently saw a letter that you sent out that was
letter?
Yeah, that it was send out, or it was pretty much turn off Fox and turn off MSNBC and quit listening to those. They're problematic. I suspect you got could have alienated a lot of people on both sides, and you got a lot of feedback on that. What was some of the more interesting feedback that you had?
Well, basically people, the two strongest negative reactions we got were just people saying, but I love Rachel Maddow. And I'm like, yeah, well, they all love Sean Hannity. Okay. And then also, you can't equate those two. One is totally evil, right? And I'm like, this illustrates the problem, right? We are neither, and those are the two examples I use, Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity. I'm not necessarily trying to equate them. What I'm trying to point out is that neither is really working to bring people together and find common ground and reduce the divisiveness, which is what we need to do in order to move forward as a country. I believe that as part of corporate media, both Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity, their jobs are to deliver eyeballs to the advertisers on their networks, right? That's their job, because it's a business, it's corporate media. And the best way to do that for these kinds of networks is to, or what the most efficient way that the corporate owners have decided is, find a theme, find an audience, and just keep feeding them what they want. Put fuel to the fire, and they will be there, and they will be passionate, and they'll be watching every time. And that's how to deliver eyeballs to advertisers, which is the ultimate aim of these media corporations, right? It's not to serve the public interest. And so, that's my point. And when I'm sure I did alienate people, and I'm sure people were upset by it. But I try to say, look, the other side says the same thing you're saying, but about us, right? And so my point is find some truly independent media and information sources that aren't there primarily, again, to deliver eyeballs to advertisers, to corporate advertisers, and try to get educated and informed that way. I think that's essential, and it's essential for me to get credibility. When I'm at, we can't bring this country together and make progress unless we start being less dismissive of each other, less divisive, less hateful, and we start to see our common interests and our common humanity and our common concerns more than our differences, right? And if we don't do that, then we're just going to continue to see more of the same, even if we see change in the presidency, right? The divisiveness is going to continue. What brought us Donald Trump is not, to me, Donald Trump. It's what's out there in people's hearts and minds, and the frustrations and the problems they're feeling, and the pain they're experiencing, and the alienation they're experiencing, and what technology has done to them, and what the weakening of labor has done. I'll often tell people when I'm out on the campaign trail who bring this issue up that you just brought up, this idea that we've got to own up to our responsibility for things. So I'll tell people, I'll say, look, if I'm out at an event in the 9th District and I'm talking to a guy who's a union member, he's a union member, but he's clearly indicating to me that he's going to vote Republican. The typical reaction of someone on the other side, on the left, might be, well, that's just idiotic, that's just stupid, that's insane. Doesn't he know that Republicans don't even believe in labor unions? They want to destroy them, right? They want to weaken them. And I say to people, there's plenty of blame to go around for this alienation, right? For this lack of trust and this cynicism that people have towards whether or not Washington, D.C. politicians are looking out for them. And I'll say, maybe that guy's thinking about the fact that it was Bill Clinton, over the objections of all of organized labor, that brought us NAFTA, right? Maybe, and meanwhile, Ross Perot was saying there'll be a giant sucking sound, and that sound will be all the jobs moving south of the border all manufacturing and assembly jobs. See, maybe he's thinking about that over the objections of labor, of organized labor, Clinton strong-armed that through. And when we talk about being against Wall Street and working for the little guy, which is what Democrats are supposed to be doing, maybe some of these folks on the other side are thinking about the fact that the Obama administration staffed that administration heavily with Wall Streeters, Wall Streeters up and down through the Obama administration. When the collapse came and all the turmoil and corruption of the whole collapse of 2008, was there aggressive pursuit by the Obama Justice Department of Wall Streeters? No. We've got to own up to get credibility with people that maybe see things a little differently than us. We've got to be open to hearing where they're coming from, because the chances are that there's some legitimate issues there. There's some legitimate concerns, and they have some legitimate grounds for feeling the way they do. And once you open up and you listen to them and you acknowledge the validity of some of their points, then you open the door to make a connection and find some common ground, which is the only way we can make any progress, right? So I always say, people, there's plenty of blame to go around, and we've got to be willing on our side to own up to some of it.
Andy, it's Liz. Since you mentioned a little bit about labor, can you talk about the federal minimum wage at all?
When you say, can I talk about it, do I think it needs to be dramatically increased?
Whatever it is you think about it.
Yes, I think it needs to be dramatically increased. Since labor, organized labor, has been under attack for decades and been weakened and undermined so dramatically in so many ways, organized labor is no longer a strong enough force to help ensure a fair distribution of economic benefits of this country down to working people. And it used to be that when labor was strong, even non-labor jobs and positions, even entry-level positions all the way down, benefited from the pressure and the power that organized labor had to represent the working folks and the fairness of distributing the benefits of our economy, the productivity gains of our economy amongst everybody for a broader prosperity. So in the absence, we've got to strengthen labor again. That's my belief, right? We've got to find ways to rejuvenate and strengthen labor to do what they've always done in this country, to work for better wages and benefits and working conditions for workers. But in the absence of that right now, we absolutely have to increase the federal minimum wage dramatically. And I worked very hard 15, 16, 17 years ago here in Bloomington to do at that time what was and still is today by far the most far-reaching and aggressive living wage, municipal living wage law that's in the state of Indiana. And we pushed it just about as far as we possibly could under state law. Because, Indiana is not like some states like New Mexico and California, where municipalities can actually pass minimum wages that apply to all employers in the whole city, like in Seattle and in other places. Indiana state law prohibits municipal governments from doing that. So we had to just use the power of contracts in city government to reach as far as we could to require a living wage. And what we did back in 2005, adjusted for cost of living, is now up close to $15 an hour. It's getting up there pretty close. So before the fight for 15 to 20 years ago, I was fighting hard as a city council representative for a higher minimum wage floor in the best way we could, using the best tools we could. And you, Liz, were very helpful at that time in that fight. And I thank you again. I've thanked you before. I'll thank you again for that help you gave to that whole effort.
Thank you, Andy. Do you have a few minutes to stay afterwards to answer more questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we need to formally close our program, but we'll open back up in just a few. And in honor of your presentation today, we'll give a donation to the organization that I'm about to draw out of this hat for our new quarterly speaker recognition. So I have not looked at these in any way to give me any idea of who I'm about to draw out. And okay, I think I have one. Amethyst House will be the recipient of our second quarter speaker recognition, and thank you. So I'd like to introduce Sally Gaskell to tell us about next week's program.
Next week, our speaker will be the Republican candidate for the Indiana 9th and the incumbent Trey Hollingsworth.
Thank you very much. Michael, please share our graphic with us to recite the four-way test +1. Of the things we think, say, and do, first, is it the
Is it the
truth?
truth?
Second, is it fair?
Concern.
Third, will it build
Goodwill,
better
friendship.
Fourth, will it be
beneficial
to all
concerned.
And fifth,
Is
it fun? Okay, so thank you all for being here. Our meeting is officially closed, but if anyone has any additional questions for Andy, let's open it up now.